Hey, welcome back. So let's continue with our command line tool. So now that we know that argv contains the things we want, we can do a few things here. So all right, so the first thing we'll do is I want to create, let's capture these things first of all. So action is going to be argv1, like that. Okay, so remember that the first item in argv is the name of the file, so we don't really need to know that. We know the file we are running, so we'll start at location memory 1. So whatever the user puts there is the action they want to take. So if we come back to the command line, navigate to the correct the project folder. So here if we say PHP, let me come back to this. Here I just want us to echo argv or action, like that. Okay, so let's echo action. So if I say PHP Thunder, and then we say make plugin. So make plugin is our action. Okay, so that's great, but we want this part here, this first part of the action here before the full colon, to be the function name we are calling, and then this will be something else. So what I'm going to do is, let's do this. Let me come back here. So at this point we will check. We'll say, actually what we'll do is this. Let me move here. So we have this Thunder thing that we're calling here, but then we have thunder.php in the Thunder folder here. This will be a class. So let's do a class name here. So that's the class itself. We're just using the other file to call this one. So say Thunder. This does not extend anything. Let me do this. So class Thunder, and we don't really need a constructor. So here I'm going to say public function. Let's start with the help function here, and maybe we can just put a version number there, and let's do this. So the return type of this will be a string, and version here, let's just call it a string. So I've copied and pasted this data. So the only thing the help function is doing is echoing this. Okay, so it's going to say, it's going to write a message if we type help. So it's going to be Thunder PHP version, whatever version number there is, command line tool, and then we'll have commands here like a database. When we are dealing with the database, this is what we'll do. We'll remove the database create because it's pretty much useless. Let's remove the seeder here. We won't go this deep, so you can actually add functionality, extra functionality to your command line tool as you wish, but I don't want us to go that deep. I just want us to use whatever is necessary here, but you can always extend it and add what you want. Let's see here, drops table, drops a database. Nah, we won't be doing any of this, so let me remove that. Migrate, we will do that. Refresh, roll back, that's fine. Generators, we'll use a make plugin to make plugins, so generates new folder. Migration model, we won't be needing a seeder either. Excuse me. So this is all the functionality we're going to have in here. All right, so let's see how this would work. Now let's create a namespace here, because everything else does have that anyway. So Thunder namespace, and then we say if defined fc path or die. What am I doing here? I could just easily copy this over here, right? Copy that from any of the other classes and just paste. But instead of looking for root, here we are looking for fc path. Now, it doesn't have to say fc path. I forgot to mention that you can name it anything you want, but as long as it's the same thing you named here, then we are good. Okay, so we define that, we bring it here, we have one function called help, and that's it. Okay, great. So now back to the Thunder file here. So what we want to do is we grab an action, right? But the action could be empty. So we'll say if empty, because the user may not type it, action like that. What do? We're going to run something here. So before this point, I want to instantiate the Thunder class. So I'm going to say Thunder is equal to new Thunder, and then let's do this. Yeah, Thunder, and then Thunder, because one of them is the namespace, the other is the actual class. But in order for this to work, we have to initialize these files, the config and all that, because we're going to need all of these. When reading from the database, we need the config, we need this migration, we'll need to use some of those functions in there. So I want to import this init.php. So what I would do is right about here, maybe, I'm going to say require. So the order of these, not really so important. Let's use fc path here, and then do that. And then over here, I'm going to say, wait, actually fc path is the path. So from the main path, we'll go to up, and then slash, no, this way, slash Thunder, and then slash init.php, like so. Wait, why is this? Why is this going this way instead? Okay, so let's try that. You know what, that's why I like using this ds thing, because sometimes I get confused over these, which one is correct and stuff. So let me do that instead, even though it looks ugly. But if I go to the init.php also, it should be this way. I see. Yeah, so that was correct anyway. Okay, so let's remove this print our argv. So we grab items from argv here. Now, may not exist, so let's do this. This is just to say if this is null, just put an empty value. Yeah, I think that's about it. And then so if action is empty over here, let's run the help function from Thunder. So we can run any function we want by using the function core user array, core user func array. So the params we're going to send are argv itself. So let me put that. This should be an array. And then the function we want to run is called help, right? So that's the help function. But because it's inside a class, it's not just a function, we have to put the class name. So I'll put the class name, comma, help, but this has to be an array. So let's put that in brackets like so. Okay, so if that's empty, great. Now, if it's not empty and there is an action, action translates to the function we're going to call inside the Thunder class. So I'm going to paste this here and put action over here, like so. But it's very possible that that function does not exist. Okay, so there's an action, but you typed the wrong action. So in that case, we have to confirm if something is callable, meaning it's a valid function. So say if is callable, and we'll give it this right here, this array, so that we test whether it's callable or not. And then if it is, we'll call it. If not, we will still call the help function instead. So let me go here and let's move like that. And let me duplicate or copy this, paste it there. Now on here, the arguments that we're going to send to this function will be the version number. So I'm just gonna do this. So I'm just gonna say version and say here so that it's easy to change your version number, like so. Okay, so we'll put it right there and copy that. And let's put that, when we put the help, let's send the version number instead, like so. That's because that's what we're trying to grab from here. All right. So far so good. Great. So let's see how this will work in action. So I'm going to come back to here. Let me clear everything. And I'm going to say PHP Thunder without typing anything else and press enter. Okay, so there's a warning there. It says undefined array key server name. Okay, great. So this happened in the config.php. Good. Now this makes sense because we are running this in the command line, and so we don't actually have a server that's going on here. So server name is unknown. So let's see where this error really originates. So I go to config.php. So this is because we are trying here to check if the server name is localhost so that we can do this. Alright. So instead, what we need to do is to be able to check, first of all, are we in the command line or what else are we using? And we know how to check for the command line using this if statement over here. Okay, so let's craft an if statement that will add this to the mix. So I'll copy that, come back to config.php. We need to check, first of all, if this exists. Okay, before we can check for this. So we want, when we're using the command line, to run the local version of things. So what I'm gonna do here is this. Let's say if not empty, like that. Let me duplicate this part, or I'll copy this. Like this. So if not empty server name and this, now that makes sense. So if not empty server name and the server name is equal to localhost, then let's run this. And even if we go online, the server name will not be empty, but it won't be equal to this, so it will go this way. But what about when the server name is empty? Because if we try to run this in the command line, we'll find that server name is empty indeed. So if not empty will be false, and whatever comes after, because this is an AND, will be false, which means it won't run here. The command line will want to run this. So let's fix that. So what we're going to do is wrap this whole thing inside brackets, like so. Okay. And then we'll put an OR statement. So what we will do is this. We'll say if this is empty, so come back here and say, let's put this inside brackets as well and say OR. Okay. So if one of these is true, it will still run here. So if I say if empty server name, which in this case we are in the command line, and at the same time, wait, what's happening? Where is this closing? What did I just do? Let's do this. Empty, open, close bracket. I want to be clear what I'm doing here, so let me paste. Oops. Let me just grab this and paste it in here. Okay, like that. So if this is empty, and at the same time, let's go back to Thunder and grab this part. String pause is equal to 0, meaning we're in the wait. Okay, so if it's equal to 0, it means we are not in the command line. Okay, great. So let me come back to config and paste it there and just negate that like so. Okay, so to make sure that we are not on CGI, CGI is the common, what does this stand for? I forgot to mention this. I think that's the common gateway interface, which is the normal API for the browser thingy and not the command line. All right, so if it's not the command line, if server name is empty and we are in the command line, then run this. But if server name is not empty and the server name is localhost, run here. Okay, so that should fix our error. So let's clear this again. And let's do PHP Thunder. Okay, so another fatal error. So core user func array argument 2 args must be of type array string given. Okay, so where is that? It should be an array of items. So let's get back to Thunder. So here, since it wants an array, let's give it an array. So we just say like this, like this. In fact, I don't want argv to be spread out into variables, so I'm just going to put that in an array as well, like that. So it's like having an array and the first item is the version number, and same here, the first item is argv. Okay, that should solve more problems. Let's clear this. Let's say PHP Thunder, press enter, and there we go. At least now it's showing us something. It's saying Thunder PHP version 1, command line 2, and it shows us the help tool. Okay, cool, but we have an error here again. Help return value must be of type string, none returned. Okay, so this is my bad here. I shouldn't have put a return type of string. Let's just say void, say nothing is returned there, and call it a day. So let's clear that again and do PHP Thunder. Boom. So now when you type Thunder, this is what you get. I can move this text a little back like so. If I want it to move back, so do PHP Thunder, and you see it at the end here. So it's up to you. I think it was better where it was. Okay, so we have our help function, but what about other functions? So let's do public function make. So I want this function here called make. And this will receive an array argv, like that. Or let's just call it args or something. Okay, great. So public function make. So if we come back to our help thing here, we have make plugin, make migration, or migrate, or something like that. So make plugin. So we just want to grab this part of it and call it one part, and then this will take us to the make function. But then within the make function, we can have to check what is on the other side like this to know what's going on. Okay, so let's come back to Thunder here. Also, actually, wait a minute. You know, here instead of doing this, when the user types a non-callable function, we should tell the user. So I'm going to say echo here, and let's echo some return buttons here and say unknown command, and then we put that command action, right? Okay. That way, if I type something like thunder and then I put go or something, or do, then it will say unknown command do, because that command does not exist. Also here on action, what I would do is, because most of these actions will contain a full colon in the middle, so I can separate this from that. So let's do explode. Let's explode in the middle there, and the string is from action. So action rb blah, okay, and then action now will be equal to the first item that's going to be inside action 0, like that. Okay, great. Goody. So let's test this out. Clear. So I'm going to say PHP thunder. If I type help like this, oops. Okay. Thunder help unquote type argument 1 version must be of type string array given. Really? What is going on? Array. What is going on? That's an array, right? Version. Ah, right. Okay, let's follow that arrangement. Let's just say array, right? Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay. So let's just prepare for both an array and a string. Now, if an array is given, let's do this. If, let's just say version is equal to, and let's check if, because sometimes this will be an array or a string, depending on where we're running it from, because sometimes if the command is empty, it will call this help function here, but it's very possible for the user to actually type help and it will run this, but in that case it will supply an array. So we should expect both versions. So here I'm going to say if is array version, then what we would do is we'll set version to version first item. Otherwise, we'll just leave it as it is. Okay, so that will just ensure that whether we supply an array or a string, we still get the version number. Okay, so let's try again. PHP thunder help. Okay, so that works. Or if I type PHP thunder, that still works. That's great. Okay, now if I type PHP, what I want to do is to show that this is running. So here, I'll say echo from the make function so that we can see it here. Let me just put return there, like so. So that goes to the next line when it echoes that text. So then we'll say thunder and say make. Boom. From the make function. Great. So that's working. Let's just do make plugin. Same thing. But what about if we type a command that is unknown, and then it says unknown command yo-yo? Or if we say PHP thunder yo-yo hey, it still says unknown command yo-yo. Great, so things are working as intended. So the only thing now we need to do is actually have the make function do something. So in this case, we're going to get the args thingy here. Now, if we are in the make function, we should make sure that we, let's see here, let's do this. We'll say if, first of all, let's grab action here. Let's say action is equal to, we'll do exactly the same thing we got here. So we'll grab these guys here and come back and paste over here. Boom. Okay. Now we don't actually need to explode this at all. So we'll just get it as it is. We already know that it contains make at the beginning, so that's fine. So here we'll say, and it can't be empty because this is what brought us here, so we're just gonna do that. And what we can do is create a switch statement here if we want, or we can create an if statement. So let's use if instead. We'll say if action is equal to make, and then plugin, like that. Then we'll do something, and then we'll say else, and then look for another if statement, like, wait a second. So here we'll have, in the make category, we have plugin, we have migration, we have model. So and then finally make model. Let's remove this final one, make model, like that. Okay, so depending on what we type, it will be one of these. And if it's none of these, we can echo out something here and say unknown wait, and then we'll concatenate action. Okay, so you can write your own error messages however custom you want them to be. Okay, great, 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 great. All right, so the first thing we do is to create a plugin. Now, if the user wants to create a plugin, we need that user, all we need this thing to do is just copy some files to the project folder here, and then let's create the files that it can copy. Instead of having to type the text directly here, it's better to just copy files that exist. So within the folder, the Thunder PHP folder, we'll say new folder, and we're going to create a folder called samples, and that's where we're going to get everything we need. So we'll put all the required files in there and then just copy them to whatever folder the user has created. Let's capture a few other things here, but let's just be safe here. I'm gonna do this, sorry about that. Let's put 2, let's put 3. These might not exist. This one may, but these ones might not. So this one we're going to say folder, and this one class. We'll call it class name. All right, great. So these are the things we'll be expecting. So in plugin here, we want to make sure that the plugin folder we are trying to create does not exist yet. So at this point, I will check if the file exists. So we're going to say if we use file exists folder So if that exists, we exit. Let me put it like this. N R. We say that plugin folder already exists. Okay, so that becomes the end of it, but the folder will just be the folder name. So let's do this and say I may need the original folder name, so say original folder is equal to folder, and then say folder is equal to, because I'm going to modify this, plugins slash and then folder. That way it knows to look into the plugins folder here. Okay, so if that's all good, then we can move on. So at this point I want to generate the folder first of all. So we're going to say mkdir. So let's make that directory. So we give ourselves permission to edit it, and let's put true for recursive creation. So here you can put comments so that you can remember what you're doing here. By the way, it's Control Shift, is it / or /? Yeah, this slash right here. So you press Control Shift and that slash, whatever you've selected becomes a block comment. Okay, so here I'm going to do this, duplicate. Now instead of main plugin folder, this one will be, so we create the main plugin folder, and then in there we'll create a few folders. For example, the assets folder is equal to, and then here we'll put folder, and within there we're going to have assets like that. So folder assets, and yeah, that should do it. So that's the assets folder. We'll put more folders here. Now when we create assets, instead of the assets folder directly here, actually what we can do is create the CSS folder directly like this, like that. Okay, so CSS folder, and let me duplicate here. I'll create the JS folder. Now of course I have to replace these guys here. Okay, so CSS, JS, fonts, what else? Images. And then images. Okay, so we have CSS, JS, fonts, images. What else? We have you can have an includes folder if you want. It's not all the time that you need that, so maybe we'll let it be, but or we can just add it to, let's see here, includes. This one is not in the assets, it's just after folder here. Wait a minute, does folder have a slash? Oh, no, it doesn't have. Okay, so that's fine. So includes, there we go. Now we need to copy some files. So what I'll do is duplicate here and say copy files, like so. So this one is controller. Controller file. This one will go inside includes. Should we put it there? you know what, let's do this. Let's maintain MVC, shall we? So we'll say controller folder, so controllers, and then we can duplicate this and say views. Okay, so we have views, we have controllers, and now we copy files. So let's copy the controllers file first. Controllers, and then we'll just say controller.php. So that's where we're copying to. So instead of doing this, we use the copy function. Source is that's the destination. So we're gonna be controller file. And wait a second, the copy, I don't know. I think there should be a third param there for whether to replace or not. Yeah, but if the folder did not exist, then that file didn't exist either to start with. So we don't need to do that. So copy, what's the source? Let's do this. Let me duplicate. I'm gonna say controller file source, and this will be inside the FC directory. Do we need to? No, we don't. Okay, we'll test things like this and see what happens. So I'm gonna go like app, and then thunder, and then samples, and then controller samples, controller sample. You can call it source or whatever, that's up to you. So we grab this guy and put there. All right. So it's possible that this file may not exist, so you could have errors. In here, it would be better to make sure that both files exist. Not this one, just this one here. We're going to say if file exists, controller source file, then we do this. Otherwise, we could put an else statement and just echo something and say controller sample file not found. Okay, we'll put in full colon, and then let's concatenate with controller source. That way we know where it was trying to find the file from, and so on. Then let's duplicate this. Instead of controller now, we deal with the view file. Okay, so view file. By the way, press Ctrl D to select multiple selections once I select the first one. So view file folder, views, view.php, thunder samples, view sample, that looks about right. Views sample file not found, blah blah blah. Okay. Alright, so let me copy that just so we can know where we are at. Say view file. Okay. So great, we'll have the view file. What else do we have? We will need to copy the JavaScript file. We need a migration file as well. So let me duplicate this. Here we have controller folder, controller file. Okay, let me duplicate here again. 2 more times. So in this one, instead of view folder, we'll have migrations folder. Okay, and then here we'll have models folder. All right, so that does it. Then we can copy sample files now. So view file, let's duplicate this one. That's for migration, one for a model. And let's do also JavaScript and what else? CSS. Okay, great. So let's do JS file. Okay, so the folder we're taking it is inside assets/js/ what do we call this one? We'll call it plugin.js and js sample.php. That's fine. Now this doesn't need to be a PHP, sorry, it can be a JS file. And let's move sample.js file not found. Okay, great. So the same thing we can do with CSS, like that. Okay, so source file, that's CSS, and this one will be style.css. And here we'll take this from assets, CSS, then style.css. That's where it will go. And copy, blah, 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 that's fine. And then view file. Oh, so there's two more here. Yeah, so let's get a migration file here as well. Oh, let's start with model. Model.php, models, model.php. Do we need this? Okay, maybe not these two, because migration files are not always needed. Since we have special ways to create these, I think maybe we shouldn't. Just put the folders there and leave them be. Okay, so JavaScript, CSS, style, that's fine. I think at this point we are good to go. And then maybe we can create a migration file after. Okay, so once we reach this point, we can just echo something. And say plugin creation complete. Boom. Now what we can do is, if you want, you can flash the buffer with every item that happens here in order to, let's go to the Thunder here, so that you can see what's happening. If you want, we can say OB implicit flash, like that. And then with every echo, you can do OB flash. Now, instead of having to do that, what we can do is to do that all the time, we can create a function. So let's go to Thunder PHP. So right here we can create a public or private function. Let's just put it right at the end. Let's just say private function message. Okay, so we'll look for a string, and then that will be the message. And then we can say die is equal to false. If we set it to true, then what does this return? This doesn't return anything, so void. Okay, so all it does is echo the message, right? And then if die, then we're gonna say die. Okay, so we die there if we need to echo the message. And what else did I want to do here? So the message should have automatic carriage return there. You can either put at the beginning or at the end, it's up to you. And what else do I need here? Something I needed to do. Yeah, we can flash the buffer so that we echo what we want. So every echo here should be replaced with this message. So let's go down here. So here there's echo, just like here and here and there and there and there. Okay, so here we'll say message and then open bracket, delete that, and then let's go to the end and close that. Let's go back home, press home, and I forgot to save this message. All right, and now I can remove these carriage returns. So let's do like that. What else? This one. And let's see what's going on. Die here, for example. We can do the same thing. Say this message, but then die should be true. Let's just put true on the end there, and let's remove this. All right, so back down here. What am I looking for? This message. You can capitalize these, or in the message itself you can tell it use C first, so it can capitalize the first letter of the message. Alrighty then, this should do the trick. But why do we have this here? It's because we should swap these two. Okay, very, very good. So let's test this out, shall we? So I'll try and replace files in an existing, existing plugin, sorry. So say basic auth, which I know exists, and if I press a non-command basic auth, that is true because I'm supposed to type PHP Thunder make plugin, and that's basic authentication. Okay, so a non-PHP notice, a non-command ob flash, failed to flash buffer, no buffer to flash. Okay, that makes sense, because what we need to do is initiate the buffer. So what do we do? Let's go to the beginning, Thunder here. Let's do ob start to start the buffer. Okay, so let's rerun that. What was going on here? Okay, so let's run that again. Unknown command. What is the unknown command here? Thunder, make plugin, basic auth. Okay, so something is going on here, so let's find out. Did it come here or not? So let me try here and say echo here, just so we know we are not coming through here. So I will retype that, so it's not there at all. Okay, so great. So unknown command is also somewhere here. So action is empty. Okay, that's because we're using argv. Sorry about that. Let me duplicate this and let's do that instead. Okay, great. That should solve our problem. Okay, so let's try again. Okay, it says that plugin folder already exists. Okay, we are on the right track. Now let's try and create a test plugin. So say PHP, and we're gonna do make, Thunder, make plugin test. Let's try that. Okay, so there it is. Controller sample file not found. Plugin creation complete. So now, if I go to this here, plugin folder, I should find the test folder here with folders already there. We have the assets folder, we have the controllers, we have the migrations, models is spelled wrong, views is there, and we forgot the plugin file itself. Okay, so a few things to fix here. Before I copy the controller file, let me duplicate this. And instead of controller, this one will be plugin. So plugin file, this one will be plugins. Is it folder? No. This is actually a file within just plugin.php and then Thunder plugin sample. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so if file exists, wait, what have I not done here? So instead of controller here, we'll do plugin like that. So plugin file source, plugin sample not found. Okay, so that's all good. That's one thing we forgot. What else? Models is spelled wrong. There we go, like that. Great. I think this does it. So I'm going to delete this folder, delete folder, and try one more time. Now this time I want my samples from here. Okay, so I'm going to create a few samples here. So new file, and save. So this one will be plugin-sample.php, like so. Okay, then let's create another new file. This one will be controller-sample.php, and then new file again. So on this one we're going to do style. CSS sample.css. Wait, is that what we called it? Just a second, let me close these. Where is the CSS? So it's CSS sample. Okay, that's correct. So here you can just put, say, put your CSS for your plugin here, like that. Okay, so let's save that. Let's create another one in samples again. Put the JavaScript for your plugin here. Save. This one will be JS sample.js, and we save. So you can put some basic JS, some basic CSS if you want there. That's up to you. And let's see, what else do we need? What other files? CSS, JS, view sample. Okay, so let's try that one. Right click, new. So in here we're just going to put actual stu.php. Let's put actual HTML. This is a plugin. And then we can do something like, let's put maybe h3 over here, like so. Alright. And then you say this plugin is being rendered from the file, and then here we can put PHP plugin path, like so, and close that. And then at the end there we'll concatenate, or within this we will do this and say views/view.php, like that. Okay. So let's do, let me put a div here around this. So this is what the user will see when they create a new plugin and it's running. So let's do style, and we're going to say padding 20 pixels, and then max width, let's try 600 pixels, margin auto. Okay, something like that. And let's put a background color of slightly off-white. Alright, something like this. So you can design whatever you want here. Controller, we'll just say put the controller code for your plugin here. What else? The plugin sample. So we've done the view file, we've done JS, CSS, we've done the controller, plugin. So just the plugin.php remains. Okay, great. It's there, but I want us to put some basic functionality here so that we don't have to put the things that we would normally use all the time. I will put here, so we don't have to type that every single time. There's also the config that I'm forgetting here. Where is that config? I think I forgot about that one. So let me duplicate right at the end here. So we're gonna do config. Let's replace CSS with config. So this one will go right into the main folder. It's gonna be config.json, and it will come from the config sample.json, and we'll grab the config file, config sample file not found in. Okay, So right there, let's right click, new file, and save. And this one will be config-sample.json. Save. Alright, this is awesome. Let me close all these files now. Let's go back here and let's retry the plugin creation. So view sample file not found. Okay, let's make sure it is found. Ah, right, that's because, let me rename it. We named it as view, it should be view sample. Save. But we have the test plugin here, and as you can see, it has a styles.css, no fonts, no images, but a JS plugin as well. Controllers, there's a controller.php in there, a view, there is no view file. There's a JSON plugin.php file. Great. Let's delete the folder again, and let's rerun the command one more time so that until we get no errors. So plugin creation complete. Let's go back here. Okay, so plugin creation complete. Plugin folder, let's do this, and the plugin folder will be let's put folder here. Yeah, that's great. So back again, let's delete that folder. Let's try it one more time. Boom. Okay, so plugin creation complete, plugin folder, plugins/test. Alright, so this is all good. Let's delete that test folder one more time, and we'll continue in the next video.